Ooh, we have 3 videos on this one. Fancy. 3. Well, let's get started on then.
A presentation of AIT.
Teaching can be a lonely profession. Isolated in their own classrooms, teachers may have few chances for new learning, for growth, for working with colleagues.
I think the only way that educators can truly make a difference in the lives of all their children is if within the building they have a sense of support from one another. If you're out there on your own, you might do really great for a while, but you're eventually going to burn out because you can't do it on your own.
How about the appropriateness of the task? Was it appropriate for both sets?
At the highly effective schools we visited, teachers and administrators learn from each other through staff development. It's a process that can take many forms. A principal demonstrating an effective lesson for a new teacher. An informal discussion around the lunch table.
To either the teachers
Or a session with an expert from outside the school.
Not in a lot of dittos, but
This program won't give you a formula for doing staff development in your school. Each school is unique. But we are going to show you the characteristics of staff development at some highly successful schools.
Something else, okay?
Welcome to Bennett Q Elementary, Inglewood, California. You won't hear just educational theory from Principal Nancy Ishinagwa. Her school practices staff development that is focused, specific, and practical.
Yeah, but right about real stuff.
At this lunchtime meeting, Nancy Ishinagwa and some of her first-year teachers talk about improving student writing.
Well, what do I need to work on?
I did find one weakness with your kids. They write just like they talk. They go on and on and on.
We have problems with run-on
so that
sentences.
the real problem with your kids is not the lack of words or the usage of words, the fact that they have run-on sentences. I think maybe 9 kids.
Yeah, they do. The only
About
time they
9
catch
kids.
it is when I go up to them and make them read it to me. And
Yeah.
I say stop every time that an idea finishes, and then they
Yeah.
figure out, oh,
And
the
I
period
think,
should be here.
I think that you can work on real simply, because these kids will be good writers because they can express themselves. It's just the mechanics they need to do. Now, as for Laura's kids, their sentences were a lot shorter, so they didn't make as many mistakes. In other words, her kids were better able to control the sentences by making them simple.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the objectives we do. We want to make sure that the sentences are under control. Okay, so that's my analysis. Now, you got any response to what I did?
Well, I think with the just watching when I went down to Ellen's room, with the kids that don't have an idea of a paragraph or an idea of sentences and the order and they ramble, is that you really structure it before them, for them, very highly structured, before they actually go back to their seats. And that way they get the idea in their head. And then after you've done that a number of times,
Yeah.
then let them go.
Yeah.
And watching Ellen really
Yeah, I think
made that
go ahead.
clear.
Informal staff development meetings like this one at Bennett Q are one way for teachers to exchange practical advice and solve problems.
I give the teachers a chance to figure out problems. They come to me with problems and generally with solutions. I can't do it all by myself. I don't have all the answers. So I use my staff to train the others as well. I just kind of create the situation in which this can happen.
No school tomorrow, Mom. The teachers are regrouping.
and I want you to open up to the page, and you're going to read along with your eyes as Mrs. Crawford reads it to you.
Here's another form of staff development. As Melanie Crawford teaches a lesson to her class, 3 new teachers watch. The purpose? For the new teachers to sharpen their observation skills and begin to model good teaching.
How about the appropriateness of the task? Was it appropriate for both sets of kids? Is it
After the
first
lesson,
graders weren't
Melanie
seeing it?
Crawford meets with the new teachers to find out what they observed in her class.
So I thought that the activities were, I thought they were appropriate because the kids could take it and do with it what they could.
What were other indicators that it was appropriate for both levels?
I've seen children look very frustrated. When they're frustrated, they'll just sit there and they won't do anything. Everybody was kind of focused into what they were doing.
So what we're really looking at is time on task. And that children were engaged to a level where they are successful independently.
Principal
and yet
Esther McShane
challenged
attends as many of these sessions as she can. She also makes it a priority to spend time with individual teachers, observing them, giving them feedback on what she's seen.
Picture of whatever, let's say this is the picture, and that you would show the picture to the entire group and say, study this picture and be ready to tell me what animal this is and how do you know it's that animal, because they do have the background.
Okay.
It became a very low level of questioning, but if you get them to... Bottom line is student achievement, and we need to continue to work on it. We need to focus in an area, we need to grow in that area, and as we see growth in that area, we need to identify another area so that we can continue to build on techniques, strategies that can equal success for children.
All right, he felt sick to his stomach because, how do we want to write that? Because what? It what? It smelled how? It smelled, somebody had a good adjective. What was that one you used earlier? It smelled disgusting. Okay, how do we spell disgusting?
What you're watching now is the end result of previous staff development. Teacher Diane Tompkinson was looking for active listening techniques. A staff development expert from outside the school showed her how to use an instructional technique called Story Painter. The children paint a picture to present their vision of what a story is about.
You get a lot better listening skills when they try to imagine what is going on in the story, and particularly when they know they're going to have an opportunity to paint their favorite part, and that we are going to work with a story and describe that chapter. What do you want to say about chapter 3? What do you think Savun was illustrating here?
Because Story Painter works so well in Diane Tompkinson's class, Joan Dorr of the Academic Achievement Office has come to Alki School to share the process with others.
The student got up and told about the cat in the first chapter. The other students added information. And together then, with the teacher modeling and the students directing, you know, this sequence, this is the summary of the first chapter that they came up with. Now, what I'd like to do is have us try it a little bit and see if we can do it, because that's the best way to get something ingrained. Then I'll show you some examples of what Diane's first grade children did with the same idea. Oh, this is your medium. And while we're looking at them, maybe this thought could go through your mind. Look, no one is alike. If we had just one story painter, what would the process be? If all the children were listening, but we had asked just one person to draw. That student talks about his picture and explains it. Right. So you would tell us about your picture. Do you want to tell us something about your picture? Aw, I didn't mean it to be a gotcha, but...
Well, I drew a picture of Milo sitting in his chair, and he was very dejected until he saw the package, which has his name on it.
Now, we've had some actual examples to show you. We've tried it ourselves. The next little part before we finish, I'd like you to help. I've thought of some, but I'm not going to tell you first. I'd like you to think of some variations. What else could you do with this idea?
This doesn't have to do with art, though, but sound effects. You know, while you're reading the story, and then kids all make fabulous sounds, but, you know, it's
right.
like they're not supposed to. And
whatever does she mean?
And it gives them an opportunity to really come out with those great sounds. And you read a story, and, you know, the kid that makes the great airplane noise can be the airplane, and it's a lot of fun. They like doing that.
A poem, right. And Mary, what kind of poem would we choose? We could choose
In workshops like this, teachers are learning new strategies for getting students involved.
You know, I'm doing that terrible teacher thing of having something in my head and wanting Mary to say it.
Give me a clue.
For Diane Tompkinson, these opportunities to share teaching methods are what staff development is all about.
The more strategies and methods you have, the more children you reach, and the more interesting it becomes. And I think that's a key thing we're finding nowadays, is letting children know there is more than one path to the house. And they're all acceptable and appropriate. And so that you have children taking risks in learning. You have a lot more staff taking risks. You see, there's so many things at work. And it's exciting to try out a wider variety.
Good staff development is ongoing. It's not a one-shot thing where they're called into the library, the media center, or to the auditorium to hear one speaker for 30 minutes. If they hear something, I'm always right there with them so that I know what they've heard. And as a result of their hearing that, the expectation is that they go back into the classroom and put that into practice.
Louise said something that she probably didn't even realize she said that I think is a really critical element, and that is that when teachers are having staff development, the principal's there with them. And very often you see the opposite of that. The principal introduces the speaker and then they disappear to the office.
There are even those that suggest that all of the money that we currently invest in workshops and courses and in service day programs should just be diverted to creating opportunities for teachers to share, to problem solve together, to observe each other, to teach each other.
And I think part of the process has to be the education that it is a process. It's not an event. Change is not a thing. It's an ongoing process that takes time.
But you have to work on that too. If you're going to insult people, if you're going to tell Vaughn something bad about her mother, do you think Vaughn's going to want to be your friend?
Gary Tubbs is a hands-on principal. At Beacon Hill School, Tubbs spends a large part of every day on staff development. He visits classrooms, gets involved with his teachers and students, and even teaches an occasional class. Here, he demonstrates a lesson featuring integrated learning to some new teachers. As the teachers watch, Tubbs leads the class through analysis of their lunch menu.
Will everybody please click on your brains? Because you're going to use every part of your brain for this lesson. Make sure you keep your eyes up here. You practice reading this to your neighbor as soon as you get it. If you get stuck on a word, raise your hand. And what I want you to do is think about the lunch menu and draw a quick picture. Sophia's already gotten started. She's zipping into it. Why do you think it's a dairy food? Cheese? It is cheese, but why is it a dairy food then?
It's made from milk.
It's made from milk, that's right. Cheese comes from milk. So you're absolutely right. Cheese goes here with our dairy. We don't have enough information to analyze Spicy Bar. But today, your homework, when you get your lunch today and you look at the potato with cheese sauce, you know what food groups they came from, you know where the milk comes from, what food group, you know where the salad comes from, you know where the cornmeal comes from. But when you get your Spicy Bar, will you please analyze it And then you tell me later in the day, during lunchtime or this afternoon, what food group you think the spicy bar belongs to. Will you analyze it for me, please? Okay.
They never quit, do they?
Down?
After lunch, the students analyze the assignment, the spicy bar.
The flour? Yeah. Do you think this is made out of some kind of flour that's mixed into a dough? And then what do you do with it after it's mixed into a dough?
Bake it.
All right. So we analyzed the spicy bar. You were good scientists. And now we know that the spicy bar belongs to the bread food group. Good investigation. I like to get back into teaching because it feels like the right thing to do. It keeps my skills sharp so that I can be a better supervisor for the teachers on my staff. It raises my level of credibility with the staff because I'm willing to get up and teach at a moment's notice and work with their kids and get right down on the carpet with the kids. And I'm able to then go in and evaluate a difficult situation because I've been there myself. I can help teachers learn to become self-evaluators because teaching is close enough to me. I've done it recently enough that I'm able to talk at a level that I don't feel like I'm talking down to them.
At the schools we've seen so far, teachers are encouraged to grow professionally. They are supported by their colleagues. And the principal gets involved in staff development by recognizing what teachers need and providing opportunities for growth. It's an average day for these teachers at New Suncook School in Lovell, Maine.
Oh, lovely mud, she said.
Up to their elbows in mud, searching carefully through the muck to see who can find the most interesting bugs.
There he goes. Yeah.
Well, okay, they don't do this every day.
What is he? I don't know. Go get the sheet.
You have a sheet. Someone to walk up and get it and then read it to the group.
Today, Lori Kinsey, a local conservationist, is leading the teachers and their principal on a tour of a bog near the school. She's helping the teachers prepare a unit on wetlands.
And these wetlands are stopover points for them along the way.
Yes, and the theme next year is water, and we're breaking it down into a wetlands study for 1/4 of the year would be a wetland study, and so that we could have kids involved maybe more than just what our own experiences are at the bog, to make sure that they're getting some different things that maybe we wouldn't have gotten on our own. I think a lot of us, because we live around here, have explored it, but not in the same way.
We've brought kids down here, and I've never did that. I've never done this. You know, so you just bring a little more structure or something to it. What can we do once we get down here?
The teachers really contractually are obligated only to be within the school from 7:30 to 2:30. But certainly in a school like New Suncook, and I think a lot of schools with this really committed people, these people are out on their own. They're involved in their staff development activity. They can relate back to the classroom and can relate to trying to make better things for kids in classrooms. So it's a situation beyond what you see as far as the people here is the reality that they're going back tonight and still having to prepare for tomorrow. And this happens all the time.
Ooh.
What do you think these teachers learned about each other and about themselves today? A day in the bog. It's no picnic, but these teachers enjoyed it and grew from the experience.
It just makes the year go better for the kids and also for me. So anything I can do to help my year go better is certainly worthwhile also.
Staff development is a means to an end, the end result being a successful school with successful students. In the schools we've just seen, staff development is an integral part of the school's mission and culture. It is practical, ongoing, and full of opportunities for teacher growth. But most of all, it's about improving the instruction for every student in every class.
I really have a chance to grow professionally. I have had a really rich experience in this building because of that. And the more I learn, the more I try, I demonstrate, I share, the more other people share with me, the richer the whole school gets. So that's been really nice.
Okay, looking right up here. Pretend it's the 12th of June. Everybody looking right up here. 1, 2, 3.
presentation of AIT.
We're only here for one reason, and that is to educate children. And I'm responsible for the education of every single child that enters this gate. They have entered my sphere of life, so I am responsible for it, and I need to provide the climate, the environment where learning can take place.
Pass on all the one.
Okay, let's see you do it.
At each highly successful school we visited, outstanding leadership is critical to the school's success. In this program, we'll examine instructional leadership. Another program will look at other aspects of leadership. In high-achieving schools, the principal is usually the instructional leader. We wanted to know, how do these principals improve instruction? How do they motivate teachers and students? And how do they create a culture of success in their schools?
Thou shalt educate every child?
Imagine a school called Euclid Avenue Elementary in East Los Angeles. It is dirty, dangerous, one of the lowest achieving schools in the city. Now imagine that someone calls and says you are to leave your successful school and become the new principal at Euclid. It happened to Esther McShane.
I actually thought it was a joke. I resisted. I said, I'm not coming. And I was told, I'll meet you there at 10:30 the next morning. And it certainly was a shock. I didn't want to be here. I wasn't looking for another challenge.
Ruth Johnson of the California Achievement Council understood the problems at Euclid.
There was racial tension. There was tension of teachers that were not talking to each other in the halls. There was no focus on looking at kids and achievement. It was a fractured school, very fragmented.
Throw things out the car?
Absolutely. That we're gonna have the cleanest highways in the world with the kids in this classroom. What else?
Esther McShane developed a clear mission for her new school: academic success for every child. That meant cleaning up the campus, improving instruction, and increasing student achievement.
I have made a difference because I have empowered people.
Are you ready for them?
Yeah. Okay, fine. They didn't believe that they were excellent teachers. They didn't believe that they were capable of raising children's scores. They didn't believe that they could have law and order in a school.
The culture of the school has changed. The school is now focused on student achievement. There's a curriculum focus. Teachers are practicing and implementing new ways of teaching and learning. And that, to me, is critical if the school is going to move on.
It's the beginning of it. Say it.
Minnesota.
All right. I wouldn't trade this school for a mint now, not for a mint.
Each of our principals started with the belief that all students could succeed. That belief became the focus of the school's mission, a mission these principals communicated clearly and relentlessly.
I think that if someone has the belief that these kids can absolutely learn and are capable of doing everything that you want them to do, then you set about doing that. And if you continuously monitor it, continuously talk about it, continuously get your philosophy out with parents, with community, with teachers, and with students, then everything will be fine.
And that sums up the lesson for today.
What is a schemer again, Ernie?
To make plans.
Right, a plotter or a planner. Who in our story in
Managing instruction is one of the effective principal's most important jobs.
We've come to Bennett Q Elementary in Inglewood, California, to meet a principal with a knack for designing and implementing curriculum. Her name is Nancy Ishinaga.
We have worked out a system where everybody goes through, everybody is taught specific things that make them a successful student. And it's what every teacher does.
Tell us about this picture right over here. It's a car. Okay. Tell us how many red blocks and how many white blocks you used.
White and three red.
Good for you. How about this one right over here? This looks interesting.
White, red, and silver white.
Right. You didn't use any whites there, right? What did you build here? What can we call
The
that?
curriculum at Bennett Q is sequenced, beginning in kindergarten up through the 6th grade.
A lion?
Every child progresses from blocks to abstract concepts like diameters and fractions.
Forgotten that they multiplied everybody. What'd you multiply by here?
Under this system, each grade builds on the success of previous grades.
All right. Very good.
Nancy Ishinaga believes in her sequenced curriculum. She carefully monitors to make sure it's being taught and being learned.
In other words, we have a very well-defined curriculum, and I monitor what happens in the classrooms by periodic tests, which the teachers all give, and every teacher in every grade level gives the same tests. They turn in the results to me, and we go over them together to see where strengths and weaknesses might be, where changes in the tests or changes in the curriculum need to be made.
Next question. Do you think Templeton enjoyed the fair? Thumbs up if you think he enjoyed it. Thumbs down if you think he didn't enjoy it. Thanks. I agree with all of you. Who can tell me why you think he enjoyed
Our test scores, she cares about them. She'd call you in and say, have you thought about working in this area? Watch someone else teach vocabulary and you do a lot better. When I first started, my vocabulary scores were low, and she said, what do you want to do? But I said, okay, I'll really make an emphasis next year. I'll work extra hard on vocabulary with my kids. And so it works.
We decided
that's-
the team to come
that's
after
okay.
you.
That's
We wouldn't
okay.
have normally, but we talk more, which is nice.
Well, that's okay because we identified problems. My job is to make sure that the teacher is given the wherewithal to be successful, and the teacher's job is to give everything to her kids to make them become successful. So there is this internal consistency. And I would like to reiterate the fact that we do have a system so that any school which wants to succeed can do this. It's not a matter of personalities, it's a matter of having a system by which we educate our kids.
I'd like to overwhelm them with instructional excellence, but I'm not above winning through intimidation.
48 plus 1.
49.
And raise your hands, you can tell me, if I had 49, who could raise your hand and give me a power form sequence of 49? What power form would give you 49? We got Nicholas Knowles, LaTanya, and Renita.
Effective school leaders create environments that encourage learning and inspire teachers. When Louise Smith was principal of Rice School in Dallas, the sheer force of her personality created a world inside these walls that left no avenue but achievement.
I have very high standards for myself first and for everyone else around me. And I will not lower those standards for anyone.
The first word is scarce. If I say that a resource is scarce, what do I mean by that? Gold is scarce, so people pay a high price for it these days. Kenneth, what is scarce?
Well, she is dogged in her pursuit of excellence. She lays the cards on the table when she interviews you. If you cannot meet her expectations, there are no hard feelings, but you'll have to find another place to go because the children are her priority. Even though you may develop a wonderful working relationship with her and be her friend, if you're not serving the children to the best of what she knows your capabilities to be, then you don't belong here.
I'm very uncomfortable with mediocrity. If I find people who are satisfied with mediocrity, then I stay away from them because that's my discomfort zone when I see people who are just satisfied with just status quo. I'm not satisfied with status quo. It has to be way above and beyond status quo to satisfy me.
Effective instructional leaders are highly visible around their schools. Nancy Ishinaga at Bennett Q plays many different roles: crossing guard, cafeteria worker, hallway monitor, and always instructional leader of the school.
She sets the tone for the whole school. She's a hard worker from crossing guard to cafeteria duty to you name it, Nancy does it. So she sets the tone by herself, working extremely hard. And again, she expects for her teachers to do well. We're held accountable for what happens in our classroom.
My job is not to be the big boss or the big honcho who orders everybody around. Granted, I am a little bossy, and I'm not that patient. But I think I have a very good idea and a feeling of what a school should be like. And I try to do that.
Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, Mrs. Lamar. I want to welcome you to Van Spirit Day. You've so often heard me say that I'm very proud to be the principal of Van School, because to me, Van School is very special.
Besides setting a good example, effective leaders also motivate their students and teachers to succeed. This is not a pep session at Van School. This is Spirit Day, a celebration of teaching and learning.
You know, it's not always easy to be good, but Jarrell has put forth a great effort to improve his behavior and his achievement, and of course, that is due to the cooperation that we have received from his mother and grandmother. Thank you for your support.
Doris Brevard conceives Spirit Day to motivate and honor those students and teachers who live the school's mission, academic success for all students. Across the country from Van is Beacon Hill School in Seattle. Like other effective leaders, Principal Gary Tubbs supports professional growth for his staff. Here, he uses a hands-on approach by demonstrating a lesson for a new teacher.
Any ideas why I said those foods? Chocolate what? Milk. Milk. Was milk on the menu? What milk was on the menu? How many think milk was on the menu?
Miss Barrett?
Yes, milk was on the menu. So I'm going to put that up here.
1%.
Milk. Spell milk for me. Raises my level of credibility with the staff because I'm willing to get up and teach at a moment's notice and work with their kids and get right down on the carpet with the kids, and I'm able to then go in and evaluate a difficult situation because I've been there myself. I can help teachers learn to become self-evaluators because teaching is close enough to me. I've done it recently enough that I'm able to talk at a level that I don't feel like I'm talking down to them.
Who do you think that you should design this robot for? Should it be for people? The fire company? Desiree had an idea about children.
Gretchen Jacobson teaches at Beacon Hill. She admires Gary Tubbs for his leadership and his support.
He's incredibly supportive. He really knows how to motivate. If I was having a problem in my classroom, I'd come in and say, "Okay, Gary, this is going on." And he would ask me questions and get me to reflect on what I am doing right, what I think I need work on, and then how can we solve that. And he would sometimes give solutions, too, that I would go back to my classroom and try. So he was not only encouraging, he was a good problem solver, too.
You'll find the principal really believes in teacher support.
Mrs. Digger, we finally found an aunt that's going to pick up bass.
Like other instructional leaders, Van Principal Doris Brevard supports her teachers in many ways. For example, she has enforced strict discipline at her school for over 20 years. The policy is designed to maximize the amount of time teachers have for instruction.
The principal must provide the atmosphere, and then it's the teacher's job to teach. But if that teacher can go into his or her classroom and teach 35 minutes of the 40-minute period, then something will be accomplished. But the principal must see to it that the discipline throughout the building is such that the teacher can teach the 35 minutes.
Okay, the elephant and the bad baby. And guess what? This is one of those stories where I need some helpers. Who would like to be a helper? Me. You're going to help me read the story? Yeah. Great. Well, I'll tell you when it's your part, okay? Once upon a time, I know that when I go in my room, I will have an atmosphere in which I can teach. And I think one of the things I always remember when I first came to Van, she said to me, you can teach whatever style you like. Your style is your style. And as long as you're teaching and children are learning, that's all I ask of you. And she also told me that when I go in my room to teach, I will have an atmosphere in which I can teach. And if I don't have that atmosphere, then that's her job to provide it for me. And it's always been provided for me.
Just like you have a guest in your home.
Besides creating orderly environments for their teachers, effective leaders build cohesion and cooperation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You know, I'm doing that terrible teacher thing of having something in my head and wanting Mary to say it.
Alki Principal Pat Sander encourages teamwork among her teachers. She creates staff development opportunities to get everyone talking and sharing their knowledge.
I think in the traditional school, the principal is the boss, is the person who okays what you want to do, the person you must see, you must clear things with. At Alki, the principal is a team player, a person who works collaborative with you and other staff members to see that what you want to do with kids occurs, facilitates, fosters, supports. That happens here every day.
It's really nice to hear particularly parents who are still a few years away from coming up to school and that they're really are interested in what's happening.
At the new Suncook School in Lovell, Maine, parents are meeting with Principal Gary McDonald. Their children aren't even in school yet, but McDonald believes it's crucial to get parents involved early. He wants them to understand and support the school's mission.
Once the kids are all done multi-age, they go into third grade. Now, that's regular third grade, or do they also do this? They don't have the multi-age for third, fourth, and fifth.
The multi-age, we think, enhances the type of instruction that we're providing. But that's not the answer. The multi-age is not by itself what makes it a quality program. It's what happens between teacher and child. So when they move on to third grade, though you won't see the same arrangement of grades, in other words, there'll be...
Parents, to me and to the entire staff here, are seen as being tremendous value. They're welcome at all times, and we try to provide them with the knowledge and the opportunities that they can really feel an integral part of the building. And they raise excellent questions that cause us to, again, focus and sometimes give a perspective that's extremely valuable to us.
The more I would go in and the more...
Mac was in charge, or who was in charge of
Uncle Mac. He wanted them...
Valerie Wilfong has a son at New Suncook School, and she volunteers as a teacher's aide. She got involved with the school after meeting Principal Gary McDonald.
That's why you chose the book.
I mean, right from the very beginning, we were welcomed in before Christian started kindergarten, and very open policy. We want you to be a part of what's happening, really a partnership happening here, and that was wonderful for us.
Strong instructional leadership is one key to a highly successful school. Instructional leaders are willing to do anything it takes to achieve academic success. They develop and communicate a mission, promote quality instruction, and create supportive environments for teaching and learning. Above all else, they are single-minded in their devotion to success for every child.
The passion comes from the light that comes on in the little boy's eyes when he finally gets something, or the little girl who eventually learns that I'm just as smart as anybody else. It sounds philosophical, and maybe it sounds corny to some people, but we're here for a reason, and I don't want life to come to an end and feel like I haven't made a difference in the lives of the children.
presentation of AIT.
If you have a few seconds, we'll show you everything we learned about school leadership. Oh, you want the long version? Stay tuned.
Why?
So we can know how college is.
So you can be aware of what college life is all about. What do you intend?
At each highly successful school we visited, outstanding leadership is crucial to the school's success. In this program, we'll examine school leadership. Another program will look at instructional leadership. In these schools, the principal was the school leader. We wanted to know, what do these principals do that makes them highly effective school leaders? What are their priorities? And what characteristics do they share?
Mr. Hausner, the principal would like to see you after class.
Because this is next week.
In highly effective schools, principals are closely involved in selecting teachers and replacing them if necessary. Louise Smith is the former principal of Rice School in Dallas.
I tried to interview every teacher who entered this building because I needed to let them know what the philosophy was of this school and what we were about, and if they wanted to buy into that philosophy, and if they wanted to buy into that energy level that we were going to be involved in here, because it takes an awful high energy level in order to do this job. You see, we're consistently working. There's no time to just relax.
Read the first sentence for me, please, and you'll see that it contains one...
Dana Brooks was one of the teachers Louise Smith hired after an extensive interview.
It's the toughest interviewing process that I have gone through, and I've been in 3 school systems now. You have to write an essay, you go through extensive interviews, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Okay, so when dropped on the table, the compound ball bounced, or the ball bounced. You can just say ball, that's fine.
Any teacher who interviews with Louise Smith should listen carefully. They will hear about her high expectations. And if teachers don't meet those expectations, they'll be hearing from Louise Smith again.
I call that teacher in and I just tell them, when we interviewed, I told you the kind of place that you were coming to. Now, if you want to change your mind now, then fine, we'll talk about this. But my expectations are still the same for you and everyone else around here. We've got to get the kids where they need to be, and you've got to carry your weight just as everyone else is around here. And that is something that I will not veer from at all.
Where have you been? 1, 2, ready, begin. Where?
And what happens if teachers still can't meet Louise Smith's tough standards?
I never actually had to get rid of a teacher, but the way we were able to get this school on such a high standard, some teachers who came saw that they couldn't keep up, so they asked to leave. You see, this is a very, very busy place. So, you know, some people can't keep up the pace. And you can see that very quickly if you're here, and you can't slough off around here. You have to work. And if you're not willing and able to do that, then most of them ask to leave.
After 23 years at Vann School, Doris Brevard has a reputation as a maverick and risk taker. She is an unwavering champion of her students and teachers.
From the very beginning, she has indeed been a risk taker. That is, that she puts the children at Vann School above the system all the time. She is constantly thinking and aware of what's good for the kids at Van.
The baby pig.
I wonder if that's a naming part or a telling part. Simone.
Here's an example. At one time, Van was a pilot school to test the effectiveness of the Lippincott reading series, which was based on phonics.
And we found that at the end of the first year, the children in the Lippincott series could read just about anything that they picked up. So that gave us the idea that this was something that we wanted to use.
These are the stories, Jonathan.
Unfortunately for Van, the school board later dropped the Lippincott series and told Doris Brevard she could not use it. In most schools, that would be the end of the story. But Van is not like most schools. It has Doris Brevard. She organized parents and with their support took her argument to the board. The board reversed its decision. Doris Brevard does what is best for her school, regardless of the consequences. Like most effective school leaders, she's a rebel at heart.
How many rays does this have?
I don't know.
Remember we counted them? How many does it have?
20.
It has 20. What did we call it?
Sunstar.
A sun star. Why don't you turn it over and see if we can see the tube feet? Can you see the tube feet?
Think of a school as an electrical circuit. Effective school leaders are plugged into that circuit. They get involved and monitor what's happening.
18, 19, 20.
Classes from Alki School in Seattle are on a beach trip today, and Principal Pat Sander has come with them. She didn't have to. She has plenty to do back at school. But her priority is spending time with students and teachers.
Look at this is a shell. You know what happens when the crabs grow? They grow right out of their shells. They shed them off and then they grow a new shell. So this is one of their old shells that they left here on the beach. And they grew bigger. Isn't that neat?
I love the language.
You'll also find Pat Sander at staff development meetings. She wants to see and hear what her teachers are learning.
And disgusting and plugged and gulped. And it's wonderful. Thanks, Diane.
So you didn't have to do that preparation.
And sometimes you'll even find her in her office.
All right.
Here she is busy monitoring her students' test scores and entering them into her computer.
And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, so that I can be a support and a resource to the teachers as we start to look at the instructional approaches and strategies. And two, so that if a parent walks in and asks a question about their child, that I can be knowledgeable and be able to give them some information back also. Is it feeling any better? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's wrong with you? Where'd that happen?
When I was at my bus stop.
This morning?
Pat Sander is plugged into the circuit. She is a watcher and a listener. All of this monitoring brings her closer to teachers and, most important, to students.
And I think that every child has a strength, and what we have to do is find that strength, capitalize on that, and then start to bring about the educational achievements in other areas that may not be the strengths of that child.
Now then, Mija, what are you going to do with your milk? Where do you put it? On your tray, thank you.
Effective school leaders are highly visible around their schools. You won't find Esther McShane in her office doing paperwork during school hours. She hates paperwork. She wants to be close to the action.
I do not spend my time at all during the day doing paperwork because I don't need to do paperwork. The action is in the classroom, the action is in the yard, the action's in the eating area. I have high needs to be with my students and my staff.
She's constantly out here talking to children. You know, you don't see principals doing that. She's on the playground before school, during recess, at lunchtime. She's picking up trash. And when I see her doing this, well, by golly, I'm going to pick up trash too. And I'm going to question children, and I'm going to expect for my children to excel.
I think she must stay here 12 hours a day at least. And she is here and she's out there working. And in the past, most administrators that I saw, that I have worked with, virtually locked themselves in their office and had no contact with children. She's out there and she's hustling and she cares about the kids and she tries to see tries to get everything available at all possible for our kids.
It takes an enormous amount of energy to do this job. It should say so right on the application. Esther McShane is driven. She believes there's no other way to achieve excellence.
But if I can make arrangements to reschedule that, you think you'll earn it back? What else are you going to lose?
But if you have energy and you have high expectation for yourself and for children, it just comes. It formulates itself. And needs to be displayed. That behavior needs to be every day, every minute. I mean, we're on stage, and we're on stage for children.
How is this plan?
Possible. So you can go flip side, right? And say, okay, to fly, slow.
Effective school leaders support the frontline troops, their teachers. This is Beacon Hill School in Seattle. Principal Gary Tubbs understands what can happen if teachers don't get any support.
I think that is the only way that educators can truly make a difference in the lives of all their children, is if within the building they have a sense of support from one another. If you're out there on your own, you might do really great for a while, but you're eventually going to burn out because you can't do it on your own.
When a student has a behavior problem, Gary Tubbs might call a problem-solving meeting. He invites teachers, the school's counselor, and a family support worker to brainstorm solutions with him.
Yeah, but self-esteem is starting to become a real issue. We need to talk a little bit about her, the interactions that children are having with her, and what we can do.
We've tried giving the child a friend or a buddy before. Is there someone in maybe one of the other classes that comes to mind that would be a good buddy for her?
I think there should be someone in that class. There are a lot of nice children in that class that if
Out of this meeting comes a plan to solve the child's problem, a plan that Beacon Hill's educators agree on and can implement together.
But it'll probably be next week, so.
We got 2 more calls to possibly go out and speak at Stevens and Blaine.
And a South End district will soon be calling us.
Okay.
Outside the
Effective school leaders also understand the importance of using outside resources to improve their schools. One of the most important resources is people, especially parents. At Alki Site Council meetings, Principal Pat Sander listens carefully to what parents have to offer.
And we've got the capability to do it. I think the translation, I don't know.
Not one of us can do it alone. The parents know certainly the most about their children. They know more than we do, and they have a different perspective on what's beneficial for their kids. The staff brings that educational background and professional experience, and hopefully I bring the administrative background that can maybe pull it all together. If we wanted to look at one or the other.
Now the second one is the parent survey. And last year, Site Council decided...
Site Council Chairman Bill Stalzer is also an Alki parent.
You should print it out before you leave. You know, print out what you have done so far.
Together, Stalzer and Pat Sander worked to reorganize the school's computer lab, which was rarely used until last year.
I would say probably of the 330-something children in the school last year, 250 to 300 of them were on the computer every week, at least once or twice, okay? And that happened because of parents, because of my helping get it started, and there were parents down here supervising. We don't have staff to do it. You know, staff doesn't have extra time. We couldn't get a specialist. So it was done with parents.
Zinnia. Zinnia. Has anyone ever heard of the word zinnia before? Well, you will during centers.
Here's another characteristic that we saw in all of our principals. Highly effective school leaders support the personal and professional growth of their teachers.
Yeah.
So how much is that you're showing right there?
This is A.
At the new Suncook School in Lovell, Maine, Principal Gary McDonald is working with children in one of the multi-age classes. It was the school's teachers who first conceived the idea of organizing multi-age classes. Gary McDonald supported their efforts, and his teachers know they can count on him whenever they need help.
I think the best thing is that his office door is always open. Nothing's too small for him, and wow, that's, I think, real unusual. I mean, it can be just something that you think is really petty, but he'll take time. And he has a good way of questioning you when you have a new idea, of taking the other side, but not, it doesn't make you defensive. He's a good devil's advocate. But he's great.
Or can they make it on their own? Does Mrs. Greenwood know they're coming?
The best school leaders take the extra step to support their teachers. Euclid teacher Geraldine Allen remembers a time when Esther McShane made an extra effort for her.
When she first came to the school, I was working on a master's degree in education. She was always constantly giving words of encouragement and breaks whenever possible. Coming into the classroom, doing lessons with the students, knowing that I was doing things to enhance my career. She shared of herself, and I'll never forget that.
Strong school leadership is one key to a highly successful school. Effective school leaders personally select teachers. They take risks when necessary. They monitor their students and staff. They work hard, and they support their teachers. These principals tackle problems with courage and skill. And though they may have different styles and personalities, they all agree their job is to help every child succeed.
My philosophy is that I think these children deserve a wonderful education just by showing up, and I intended to give it to each and every one of them. And I look at my product in return. What kind of students do I produce? And if I produce high-achieving, happy youngsters who have the stamina to go out here and take advantage of any opportunity that's offered to them, then I have done my job.
Did you guys learn some things? Did you guys learn? Some of these videos are something else, man. There's a lot of stuff out there. Like, mine of old times. You have questions? Well, maybe every child can succeed 3 will have answers for you. I know they had a purpose, but it's kind of harder to know the grand picture. There's 7 of these. All right, guys, that's every child can succeed 2 for the PlayStation.